What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday. Welcome to the weekend and welcome to another edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. Man, Zach, I got to tell you, man, I love a good weekend. I always look forward to it. It's a good way for us to kick it off. I realize, again, I don't have my little happy hour beverage, which might have to change here as the show
You
goes on.
just Are you serious? Are you serious? Thought we're on the same page this week. I'm not
You know what? You thought ahead.
I'm not gonna lie. I grabbed it right before you popped on because I was like, shit, is he getting a drink? I saw you disappear and I thought you were going. I was like, oh, he's trying to beat me to the punch. And now look at that.
Look at you for the first time. I'm being a responsible adult. If that is a thing. I swear I usually am, and I love. Look, I'm gonna have my fair share of some tequila later on, a little tequila. But for now, I'm gonna try to keep my head on straight because we got a few topics to talk about before we get into our weekend activities. Right. Where do we want to start? Well, there's a few topics that we do want to get into. I know the big one is around the conversation that teams are calling about a certain all-star in Baltimore. What's the realistic possibilities? We'll explain that and a whole lot more. The MVP was decided last night. Aaron Judge won, but Dan Patrick on the Dan Patrick Show, he made a very interesting point that we're going to react to and talk about because is it not just about the numbers? Did it have to do with potentially the team and where you played? And then we're going to get into football. Maybe we'll mess around at the end a little bit, have some game picks. But there was that article that was thrown out there from Bleacher Report, and I don't really care as much about the article, Zach. But Shannon Sharp and Ocho on Nightcap, they talked about it. And just, I don't know, maybe we do have to say a couple words on it because I think it's ludicrous, but I am just curious about what they've said. It's like a blind take. I haven't watched it yet, so we'll watch it together and react to it. So if you are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live on X, YouTube, and Facebook. Ooh, are you doing all right? Otherwise, Zach. Besides,
I think it's we're going. It's another day in paradise. Another day in paradise. It is getting to me though. It being dark at like 4:30. I was just looking outside, and it hit me. I was like, like baseball season, 5:30, getting like you're not even to pickles yet. Like you are just getting to pickles at like 5:30 ish, and it's daylight. I mean, it always throws me off. It takes like 3 weeks. It takes almost a month for my brain to register that like it so catches me by surprise every time it's like 4:30 and the sun's going down. I'm like, what's going on? And then I'm like, oh yeah, daylight savings.
Yeah, that's kind of what I talked about at the end of the show yesterday, right? I meant it when the sun goes down before 5, it hurts my soul. Like it does. It's not that I don't like the winter. I do. It's you get a nice fire going, a nice cozy little ambiance. Maybe you have a nice little hot beverage. You feel the seasons and you feel that maybe Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's here. But no, I like to see the sun. I know Alaska, sometimes you just never see the sun for a certain time of the year. I like the light. I like seeing what's happening. But we're not here to talk about my preferences here, Zach. We're here to talk a little bit of sports. So you lead us off here. Which topic do we want to go into first?
I think before we get into our Orioles topic, let's talk about the MVP last night. I mean, I think it went the way, at least in the National League. They're going to name it the Shohei Ohtani Award eventually, as long as he plays 130 plus games, 140 plus games, he's going to win it every single year. I don't see a year in the next 3 to 5 years that he doesn't win it. But there's a little more controversy on the American League side as Aaron Judge narrowly beats out Cal Raleigh in a 17-13 first place vote final tally. But Dan Patrick went on his show and gave an interesting point. So we'll play the start of this. It's a long clip, but we'll play the beginning of this and we'll react to the other side.
I said I would be fine if Aaron Judge won the MVP. He put up great numbers. His numbers, a lot better than Cal Raleigh, except for the home runs. Here's the question I would ask when Yankee fans get sensitive about this. If Aaron Judge was on Seattle and Cal Raleigh was on the Yankees, who wins MVP? And that's a rhetorical question because we know that Cal Raleigh, as catcher of the Yankees, and he is a Gold Glove catcher, he is going to be your MVP. Right? They would talk about, oh my gosh, he's the next Thurman Munson. I mean, we know this played a role. Now, Aaron Judge can be a liability in the field. He's not a good outfielder. He's a great hitter. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Cal Raleigh plays the most important position in baseball. He's out there every single day. Look at that pitching staff. He helped develop a very good young pitching staff. They made the playoffs. I got to factor in all of those things. But I think the hammer is if Cal Raleigh was the catcher for the Yankees, hitting 60 home runs, winning the division, developing a young pitching staff, being a Gold Glove catcher, he wins the MVP.
It's a really interesting point from Dan Patrick. Honestly, Zach, thinking about it from this lens now,
I had never thought of that. I'm not going to lie.
I really hadn't thought about it from that perspective. All the time we were talking about the position that you play, catcher, outfielder, the stats of a catcher hitting 60 home runs compared to the greatness of Aaron Judge. But it does make you think a little bit about if you switch the roles and the New York Yankees were led to the playoffs by a catcher doing something historical.
Yeah.
Would voters be swayed in the way? Because that's what this came down to, Zach, right? It came down to voters choosing between two guys worthy of winning the MVP. But is it the one with the astronomical batting average and stats while he was fully healthy or when he was healthy? Or is it the unbelievable season from a catcher out in the Pacific Northwest where the attention, while he got a lot, still wasn't at the forefront of maybe the Shohei Ohtanis of the world, the Aaron Judges of the world, and any other premier player that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, I had never really thought about this. I'm going to be honest. Aaron Judge offensively, his stats, you take everything but home runs, he was better. You know, this is not Aaron Judge. I'm not saying didn't deserve to win MVP, but it's a very interesting argument because, yeah, if these roles were reversed and the catcher for the New York Yankees hit 60 home runs, I think it would be Cal Raleigh. I think if he was in the pinstripes, you know, if he was representing the pinstripes, he was clean shaven, you know, he was the good old Yankees catcher. I wouldn't be surprised if it would have gone 17-13 the other way. If you switch those two and Aaron Judge was out in Seattle, you know, it's an interesting point. You know, obviously it's all, you know, hypothetical, but I'll give it to him. Dan Patrick, that is an argument that I'd never really considered through this. You know, we always talk about how, you know, the positional value was the big thing throughout this entire, you know, run through this entire, season. And that's a position, you know, that's a debate. But yeah, I never really thought about that way. If he hit 60 home runs for the Yankees, I wouldn't be surprised if it would have been Cal Raleigh.
it's just and again to talk about this. Aaron Judge to me is ridiculously talented. And honestly, like if we're picking between the two blind and I'm not looking at anything,
No, it's
yeah,
Aaron
I'm
Judge.
completely fine. Like I'm completely fine with the result.
Aaron
I
Judge
think
had the better all around season. Like
it's more so about just when you say out loud and when you talk about being a prisoner of the moment and the situations. If Cal had played in the Bronx, could that have persuaded? And I saw a comment in here about Jorge Posada. Jorge Posada never hit 60 jacks and had a WAR that what was 9 for Cal Raleigh.
Jorge Posada's best year was a 5.9 WAR. He hit 30 homers, and he had another year where he had 1 year with 100 RBIs. So no, it's not Jorge Posada.
Right. And Aaron Judge's value to the Yankees can match what Cal Raleigh at least meant to the Mariners as far as you remove both of them, these teams and their offenses are brutal. Like,
I'm sorry, Ryan, real fast. I just looked up in 2003, Jorge Posada batted 281, 101 RBIs with 30 home runs and finished third in MVP voting.
Who won it that year?
03? Gosh, you're testing me. Is that A-Rod? No.
I got it right here. It was A-Rod. A-Rod had 47 home runs, 118 RBIs. Carlos Delgado, 42 home runs, 145 RBIs, finished in second. Jorge Posada finished third with 49% of the votes, or 49% of the share, 54% for Delgado, 62% of the share went to A-Rod. A-Rod had the highest WAR also on top of that with an 8.4 and an OPS just below 1,000, which was higher than Jorge's. Again, Aaron Judge, I'm cool with this. I just never really thought about it. But when you look across the league, when it comes to how MVP voting is happening, if we're just going to talk statistics, by far, you got to say Aaron Judge for what he did. The numbers speak for themselves. I think it's just interesting when we talked last year and you look at the NFL situation, and people are looking at a voter fatigue where if the guy's the best, he should be voted as the best. So I don't want people to not vote for Aaron Judge because you don't like that he's won the award before because he's been that damn good. So Shohei Ohtani, he could win it every year. Why? Because if he pitches and hits, yeah, he's that good. He hits 50 jacks a year and he can be a top 10 pitcher. But if he doesn't pitch, he is an MVP type player, regardless. And I don't think people should vote against it because they don't want him to win. It's the same thing that happened in the NFL last year where Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, if you're going off the stats, Lamar Jackson, stat-wise in Baltimore, it's hard to argue why he shouldn't have won, but Josh Allen, for voter stance, the way the Buffalo Bills had played, his value to the team, where I'm going with this is the perception of the voter. And I don't know if that's ever going to change because that's how you have to feel. And I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I do think that is a fascinating part, Zach. I think really a part of me really does believe if Cal Raleigh, the big dumpers in the Bronx, the big dumpers win the 2025 AL MVP because the amount of attention that would be on him for what he did, I think would trump and sway some of the voters that are maybe stuck in the middle on a player. And Aaron Judge put in the Pacific Northwest. I actually do think that is crazy that I'm thinking that, but I'm fascinated.
Yeah, and I will also say I stood this during the season. The only way I really saw Cal Raleigh winning MVP was he had to break Judge's record.
Yeah,
I think that was his key because Judge, in a lot of senses, lapped him in all other categories. I mean, I think his OPS was like 100 points higher. Like Aaron Judge's season was so unreal. The only way that I thought Cal Raleigh would get the MVP is if he went out there and broke Judge's record. Obviously, he didn't do that. 60 was a really nice number. I thought once he hit 60, I was like, okay, maybe this is close because, that 60 looks really good. But But yeah, it's a very interesting argument. I think it would have definitely, I think there would be more. I don't know if it would have gone to Raleigh, but I think there is a very good argument that it could have.
It really could have, but you know what? Aaron Judge, rightfully so, dude's a beast. And again, I got no problem with how this played out because you're splitting hairs on greatness from both players. It would have been a tremendous story for Cal Raleigh to win, but Aaron Judge, you can't deny the greatness that he has and what he did once again being on the ball field. And he was so head and shoulders when he played this year better than any other hitter on the planet. Just goes to show you the voting system is going to go to what you deep down feel. It's so hard to be people being objective, Zach. They will have a bias on who they think is better. That's just the reality of it. And right now, Aaron Judge is your 2025 AL MVP. And you guys are watching the Ryan Ripken Show. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. And I want to take a quick moment. Shout out Merit Clubs, by the way, before we get into our next segment or subject here. And Merit Clubs right now, if you're looking to get an early start on your wellness, fitness, well, then check out their early Black Friday savings for $1. There it is. For $1 here, you can have early enrollment there at Merit Clubs. Just visit meritclubs.com to see more. And if you just want to test out Merit Clubs and you don't want that commitment, they're giving out 3-day free trial passes. So how do you spell $1, Zach?
MERRITT.
When I move, you move.
Just like that.
Just like
Ryan, before we get into our next topic, I want to keep it a little bit baseball, but did you see the Baseball United's inaugural season is underway in Dubai?
No.
Well, so you haven't seen how pitchers get to the mound?
No. Oh, you're going to show me right now.
Oh, I'm going to show you.
Lay it on me here. What we got?
Trust me, no matter what you think it is not what it is.
No way.
That's how the pitchers get to the pitch bullpen camels. This is the greatest thing. He's more worried about not falling off than he is about pitching.
Hey, dude, give it up for the camel.
Yeah,
because the camel stole the show. That is electric, and that is so on point. You know what? We need to change how guys come out of the pen moving forward. But by the way, have you ever rode a camel?
No, I've never.
Well, I'll tell you about that experience in a second. But I'm curious. Do you get cooled down if you're a pitcher because you're hot?
I just looked. The first pitch of the game following that was a home run. You can't come in on a camel and then give up a home run first pitch.
You can't. You know how bad on brand? That's so not on brand for the camel.
No, the camel didn't deserve that.
Because now everyone's going to blame the camel, not that the pitcher going out there to make plays.
Play my humps.
I'm just trying to dance, boy, and move my hump.
That's insane. The first pitch after you go.
Honestly, yeah, good for you out there for making something different. Like that gets eyeballs. So if you're trying to make an entertainment piece, good on them. Now, the results, we're going to have to talk about it because at the end of the day, I care about winning. So if we're not winning and we're not having success, we're going to have to think about this.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that board meeting. And the one guy, they were like, how do we change this up? And he was like, I have an idea. They're like, what is it? And he was like, bullpen camels. And not only was that, but the overall reaction was like, that's what we're missing.
It's like in Ted, almost where it's, that took guts. We need guts. I'm guts. Promoting you. That took guts. One thing I want to explain, let me tell you a little bit before we get into the next subject. So I told you I rode a camel.
Yeah.
I rode a camel around Ayers Rock in Australia when I was about 12 years old with my family. First off, that's an experience because I learned a couple things here. One, that camels can take on some pretty extensive weight. I think it was I rode with my father and I were on one camel. My mother and sister were on another. So first off, they can handle weight, and they could also handle pretty extreme conditions. It was pretty hot. I also learned that camels can pee longer than any animal I had ever experienced. Like we would be there, and while they're walking, it's a water hose. Like they could keep going. I was thoroughly impressed.
Well,
I was
they like
also
hold
impressed.
A bunch of water. That's like
they could hold a bunch of water, yeah. And they also could crap while they moved. It was a feat that was extremely impressive. Like we're walking, and then we hear or smell something. We're like, what the heck is that? And we turn around and like they are releasing their demons while we're on our quest and journey around Ayers Rock. Like it was impressive to watch. Now this is where it kind of gets effed up here. We finish our experience, and we're back and we're relaxing and we're getting some hors d'oeuvres around, the Ayers Rock, and we're pretty hungry, and so they're handing out these skewers, and we start to eat a little bit, and we're like, oh, this is delicious. Like this is a different way to marinate chicken. They go, no, that's not chicken. That's camel. And I almost threw up. I'm like, I've been riding, my friend Sam out there. Is this him? It wasn't, but like I was mortified.
That's a tough one.
That was
we need something. I don't know how. I don't know how Major League Baseball one ups this, but the ball's in their court. I did see Jason Benowitz tweeted out that imagine you hear Omar's whistle and here comes Felix Bautista out on a camel. That would be a sight to see. That the height on that would be a sight to see because Felix already a big guy. Add him on top of that. We got to work on the not home run afterwards.
You know what? We're talking about the weight capacity. That is going to be up there for the camel.
Yeah.
That's going to be up there.
I need to understand this fireball thing. Apparently, this league has like this rule. I have no clue, but apparently you can end an inning on one batter.
Yeah. Justin, we could talk about this with more. I really do. I think this is the weekend I get a little rip after dark back rocking and rolling. We can really dive into many of these conversations. So if you want to be a channel member and go off the rails, click that join button. The Ribs Better Kids, and we have one for the Ribs Good Kids. All of it helps our channel and platform. We appreciate you guys. And we go a little bit more off the cuff. Like we'll talk more. We'll have more camel talk later. Zach, let's get back on the tracks here. Pun intended. Let's get back on the tracks. What's next?
Yeah. So, as people in Baltimore, we have our little Friday news dumps. And we found out earlier today, at least as reported by Jim Bowden, that teams are, in fact, calling the Orioles about the availability of catcher and all-star Adley Rutschman. Listen, this has been something that has been kind of rumored for a while, especially after Samuel Basayo gets his extension. Immediately, for some reason, the storyline from that became, oh, so they're trading Adley. You and I have both said that they can very much coexist, and you can be a damn good lineup with both of them coexisting in it. Am I shocked that teams are calling for the availability of Adley Rutschman? No. Do I personally think this means that they are open to trading him? No. But I think it's really dumb if you don't pick up the phone, because any player is available, at this point, because that's how good GMs run teams. If you call, I'm going to listen to the offer. I might hang up immediately after you say it, but I'll listen to it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if any player you think is a game changer and there's a possibility, yeah, I'm going to pick up the phone call. Like Paul Skeens. I don't care what the Pirates are saying. Oh, we're going to hang up the call. Well, great. I'm still going to call you. I want to know. I want you to keep telling me you're not going to trade him. Because teams out there, when you look at a guy like Adley Rutschman and you're looking at this situation, yes, it has not gone well over the last year and a half. On the sense of you're thinking, what happened to that all-star that you saw early on in the first couple of years? And with the injury, with the mentality, or the mentals, I should say, he hasn't looked like that same guy. Now, again, I would argue in June last year, you were seeing that same Adley again. But then what happened? You're injured, and that stops the whole process of where he was. But if you're the Orioles here, and I'm putting my thinking cap on here as well, why would you trade Adley when you still have question marks overall with the catching position, especially if you have any belief that he is going to get back to 80% of what he was? 80. Catching is so important. I don't see the value of it unless there's something that absolutely blows you away. And unless that's a pitcher, that's really what it would be. You would have to get an arm that you think is so valuable for me to trade Adley Rutschman. I just don't see that right now. I really don't. I love Sam Basayo. The intentions for Sam is not for him to be the everyday catcher, at least next year. And you don't need him to be. Mm-hmm. But I hate that we're in a day and age where everyone was gung-ho on Adley, and now everyone's against him just like that. It's not like this guy's 35 years old. He has to fix some things, but the question is, do you believe that they're fixable? And if you think that they are, you don't move them, because that's why teams are calling, because they believe that he is going to get back. If I was an opposing team, Zach, yeah, I would be calling the Orioles left and right, because I still believe that number one overall pick and that switch hitting catcher with offensive upside is still there. I still think he's there. And I think that he is a game changer.
Yeah, and it's also the way he, calls games and helps the pitchers. Like, that's a big thing with Samuel Basayo right now is, they talked about a lot when he came up. He's still learning to call a game at a major league level. And he's going to, he's going to continue to learn as this season goes. So if this is a season where people want to talk about the pitching, people want to talk about how they have to go for it this year, unless you are blown away by an offer and the offer makes you that much better at another position where you think this is worth it, I'm not trading Adley. This is not a situation where it's you trade Adley because you have Basayo. They very much can coexist together, especially if you are wanting Samuel to have time at first base, time as a DH. You want to have both of them in there. I mean, we've seen this before. If we want to talk about longevity, catcher is not a big longevity, position. It's a very thankless position. So if you have two guys that you can rotate between catcher, DH, and maybe a little first with Basayo, not only are you getting the best out of them right now, but down the line, not even talking years down the line, talking down the line in September, in August, where usually a whole 120 of catching already would really start to get to you. You know, the body starts to feel even more sore. If you can limit that and not lose much production, I think that's a big advantage. Teams would love to be able to do this. Unfortunately, they're just not in the position where the Orioles are, where teams have two catchers good enough where they can have them catch and DH off and on and try to, help that way.
Here's this concept right now of qualified catchers last year. And again, I'm going to say qualified because we know that catchers, they can get injured. They miss time. There were 3 catchers last year, Zach, qualified catchers. If you're to talk about offensive prowess that had an OPS above 800, 3. Hunter Goodman with the Rockies, Shane Langoliers with the A's, and then obviously big dumper Cal Raleigh led them all with a 948 OPS and 60 jacks. Of that group right there, only Cal Raleigh had over 100 RBIs. Hunter Goodman was next with 91. Salvador Perez had 120 or had 100 RBIs, but had an OPS of 730. Alejandro Kirk, who obviously had a great year, his OPS was below 800 as well, 769. 76 RBIs, 15 home runs. William Contreras, who had a very good year for the Brewers, 754 OPS. And again, it's not telling the story. I hate doing that, but just from your offensive, when you're talking about being an offensive player, then you're going to look at the OPS. He had 17 jacks and 76 RBIs. So this is the group we're looking at. And when you look at Adley Rutschman, who last year, in his last healthy season in 2024, keyword healthy, he still played 148 games, still had 19 home runs, 79 RBIs. Yes, his OPS dipped below to 709. The year before, 20 home runs, 80 RBIs, and an OPS and batting average 277, 809. So, I could go down this line, but what I'm trying to say is, despite his struggles, he's still in the top tier of where catchers are. And I'm not saying he's the best defensive catcher because I do think there are some parts to his defensive game that are off. But if you're looking at an all-around guy, what else do you want out there? And if you're going to put your eggs in one basket with Sam Basayo, I think that that's too much pressure on a young kid when he doesn't need that pressure on him. So if you're truly trying to win right now, Zach, you don't trade Adley Rutschman.
No.
You don't. Unless you're looking at the future. And if that's what you want to do, but I'm telling fans right now, you trade Adley Rutschman, Adley will go and play well next year, wherever it's going to be.
And also, why trade him when his value is the lowest? Like, he's coming off of 2 injury-riddled seasons. Yeah. Like, you're not going to get as much. If you want to say trade Adley, he goes out there, has a good season this year, his value's up. Like, I see no reason unless, once again, you're blown away. Like, everyone has a price. If someone reaches that price, the Orioles will trade Adley Rutschman. I just don't think someone is going to give up the value enough that Mike Elias and company see it as a potential to do it right now. I'm sure they're fielding calls, but I would be pretty shocked if anything comes to fruition.
And catching is a position that I never envied the catchers, man. I felt for them. I'm like, woof, dude, you're getting beat the hell up behind the dish. You then have to go and hit. And especially for a guy like Adley, this is the reality for him. And I saw some comments about saying he's not elite anymore. You don't need to be elite as a catcher. It's a bonus if you have an elite catcher offensively. You need a guy that can be dependable to be able to call a game and give you something. And so if we're talking about in the game right now, that catchers that I think, I didn't mention him on the list because he was banged up a little bit, but Will Smith on the Dodgers, obviously you saw what he did in Game 7 of the World Series, but that dude can play. That dude can be a great offensive and defensive player. But overall, it's the ebbs and flows of the season. And for Adley and for staffs in general, I think Adley, while he might have whatever he's lost maybe with throwing, which I think also part of it, the runners aren't holding guys on well enough, but Adley is not maybe the defensive player he was maybe a couple of years ago. But we talk about guys getting comfortable with the pitching staff. If you take out Adley, who are you putting in to replace? Like Sam Basayo coming in there, great. I love Sammy, but you are asking a 21-year-old kid to handle a pitching staff with all the expectations. I don't think that's fair to him. There's a reason why you brought in James McCann. James McCann understands what the hell he's doing behind the dish, but is James McCann considered an offensive guy? No, but he can make some offense. I just think that you can't have both here. And I understand where people are saying sell him before it's too late. I'm telling you right now, if you sell Adley Rutschman this year and he goes somewhere else, he's going to help whatever team that is contend this year.
Yeah.
And if you're an Orioles fan, I'm telling you, you'd rather have him here this year.
Yeah.
If it's like go to the football side. Are the Ravens better having Mark Andrews or not for this year? They're better.
Yeah.
Would you rather try to win this year or trade? And then you have to deal with the other side of, are we all in? If you're all in with the Baltimore Orioles, you don't trade one of your pieces that can help you win in 2025.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't know if people right now, like, it's so funny. Everyone's like, they gotta, I've seen stuff about, hey, packages of these prospect packages for Adley that people are like, oh, I would take this for Adley. And it's the same people that are like, why are that as soon as it happens are like, well, we don't, this team sucks. Elias isn't going for it. Like, we're just getting prospects. Like, you can't have both. Like, if you want to compete in 2025, Adley Rutschman being on the roster is your best bet. You can't do it for prospects if you want to compete in 25. Now, if you get an offer for a young pitcher plus someone that you think that, okay, and I'm talking a young pitcher that is on the major league roster that can help you in 25, not someone that is down the line in 2 years, then that's a different discussion. But you can't just trade Adley Rutschman for a bucket of balls or for some prospects and hope to be the best version of the 2025 Baltimore Orioles.
And here's the thing, too. He's got 2 more ARB years. So he's got 2026 and 2027. So if Adley bounces back and he's playing really well and you want to hand the keys over to Sam Basayo, if that's what you want to look at, yeah, I would much rather do that 1 year down the road. Value is value. His value is lower. And it's also just a year and a half ago, Zach, everyone was asking for the big Adley extension. Now everyone wants him gone because he's a washed player.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find out one way or another here in the next year. But if that value is already low, why not take the risk of running it back and see what you got? Because seeing what I saw with him last year, if he can be on the field, he will be successful. And that's a big if. He's got to stay healthy. But give it one more year, because I guarantee you next year teams will still call about him because there's going to be teams that are still in love with him. And if he plays really well, then the advantage is back to Baltimore.
Yeah, so, I agree. The Orioles are at their best. And that's, just overall, I think when you take everything into account of what Adley helped with the pitching staff and beyond. And also, I know people aren't thinking like this, but Craig Albertaz, one of his specialties when he was coming up, and like, this is a former catcher. This is a guy that Craig Albertaz, you see all the videos of him helping develop these guys and these catchers. And you look at a lot of guys that they brought in on the coaching staff, a focal point, it seems like, is the catching position. So if you feel like, I don't think Albertaz is going to be like, hey, let me trade my young all-star catcher right now, because he's probably thinking we have 2 all-star caliber catchers right now that we can do a lot with and get the most out of and put our team in the best position to succeed. So I would love to see Adley under Albertaz for a year and see what that goes or how that goes. And just the biggest thing is health. If he's healthy, I think there's no reason, the best version of the 2025 Orioles, the most competitive version, includes Adley Rutschman.
And the thing is, too, people underestimate when you're looking at a player. Does he cause problems off the field? Is he putting himself in a bad position that way? The answer is no. Now, if you were expecting him to be this leader, and be the savior for the Orioles, which you felt 2 or 3 years ago, I think that is not a fair expectation anymore, nor should you expect that. Because the Orioles, it's clear with that. Adley wants to try to lead by action, and for him, the action is playing well. If he plays well, the team seems to play well, but he is not going to be the one that is going to take over and be the quote-unquote captain of the team. Let him try to just be the catcher and let him try to be what he can be. And if he is, the Orioles will have success.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, then guess what? You're going to have an answer one way or another going into 2026. But a lot of question marks. But one thing's for certain for me, Zach, I think it's a massive mistake if you trade Adley this year. And I will leave it at that. I think it's a massive mistake, and I don't believe it's going to happen because I'm going to buy that my former teammate is going to figure something out. And like I said before, it's going to work itself out. If he's not it, well, then guess what? Then a fresh start in 2027 would make sense. But I'm going to buy that Adley Rutschman still is that Adley Rutschman deep down. It might not be what you thought he was coming up, but is still a pretty damn good player when he can get back in the right frame of mind and be on the field. So we'll see what happens there. You're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're live at 5 here on YouTube, actually Facebook. And we got a good crowd again on a Friday. It's they sometimes say this shit is bananas, BANANAS.
Yes. Yeah. Simple.
You know?
Simple. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, and then you just the off the field stuff. There's a reason that Adley, when he came up, the vibe changed in Baltimore. And there's a reason that when he was injured all last season or the majority of last season, why it felt like the Orioles couldn't get anything going. And then he comes back, even in his short spurts, and the lineup starts to look like it's the lineup again. So he and Westy, I always say it, there are bigger superstars and potential superstars on the team, especially when you take into account Gunnar. I think, Jackson Holiday has that potential. Sam Basayo has that potential to be superstars. Those are two guys, Westy and Adley, that are kind of the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I'll say this again. If Adley plays at 70 to 80% of what you've seen at his best in the big leagues so far,
yeah,
you take that 100%. The guys that you're going to need, and this is the part too, the guys that you're going to depend on to be those stabilizing young players, you're going to need to rely on Gunnar and Westy to be those guys. And then you hope that the development of Sam Basayo, Jackson Holiday, Hauser can do it. And then we talk about the bats. But you got to look at each team. Each team has its own situations. Be fun to see what happens down the stretch here. A lot of moving parts. We talked yesterday about some of the hierarchy of free agents, I should say. Kyle Tucker, dude's a beast. Where could he end up? Who could be a good fit for the Orioles? A lot of good fits anywhere else. Also, for the poll earlier, by the way, Zach, I put out, did the voters get the AL MVP right? 62% of you all said no.
Dang. Wow. I expect that. And I'm even going to say it. We have a big Baltimore base that watches. That plays a role. That I would have voted no solely off of that.
Yeah. Interesting. Now I'm starting to see there's MLB trade rumors that CJ Abrams down in the Nats could be potentially.
Ryan, we're at that point. It's the in between the GM meetings and the winter meetings. Everyone ever is going to be on the trade market. Remember when just a few weeks ago, the foul territory guys had to go on and be like, hey, literally Scott Boras had to come out and be like, hey, yeah, Bryce is not getting traded from Philly. And the GM had to come out GM had to come out and be like, no, we're not. Mattingly was like, we're not. Like I said that we would be, if the big offer came and Bryce wanted to go. We're just in rumor central right now. Everyone's getting traded, or we're bringing camels in for pitchers. Just baseball name. Everyone's signing with the Dodgers and the Yankees as well. That is a big theme online. Everyone's projected where are these guys going to end up? it's just Dodgers, Yankees, occasional Giants.
Ah.
And Tatis and Manny are going to the Red Sox. It's all happening.
Also, if I'm the Nats, I thought the Nats were a little bit closer, but they're just saying we're tearing this whole thing down again, which you're build around James Wood. You have James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore. Like, if we're going to talk about, if we're going to be honest now, when you're saying of who would be a guy, and this is something the Nationals wouldn't do, because why would they want to trade for a guy like Adley when you have a young left-handed pitcher ace? Mackenzie Gore, regardless, though, that would be, if we're looking at a priority, if it's selling. Hey, C.J. Abrams, great young player. Mackenzie Gore, actually, if we're going to talk about any pick, if he ever becomes available, he would be the number one priority I would go out and get now. Yeah. And that's actually, I would take that over almost any free agent that's available this year.
There's only one guy that's technically, I've seen the rumors of available, and obviously this would take a king's ransom. But if the Reds are serious about getting rid of Hunter Green, I would make that call. I love Hunter.
That would be insane.
Yeah, I don't know why the Reds are kind of at that point where they've got an embarrassment of riches at the starting pitcher. When you bring in Lowther, we bring in Burns, obviously Abbott, Lodolo. Like, I understand why they're listening, but
Mackenzie Gore, of all the young pitchers that are under team control, he is the most fascinating to me for any team that I would be aggressive going after. And I'm really curious when you're looking at some of these other teams that are kind of out of the situation of making moves. You know, the Marlins now are no longer sellers, Zach. Yeah. So, like, the Sandy staying put, and he should. Unless, like, it's a deal that blows them away. Why? Because the Marlins, like, sneaky have really good pieces down there.
Yeah.
The Twins, it's interesting because they have Joe Ryan and Buxton that have the most interest to move to a team. But what is their game plan? I think you got to figure out what the team's game plans are. But yeah, I keep going back to this, Zach. You'd have to throw out some names. Maybe that'll be for a different day on Monday. Of who would I rather have, Mackenzie Gore or? I don't think there's many other pitchers I would take over him right now for your future. Call me bold with that. Yes, go out and get a guy in free agency. Not saying you don't. But if you're talking about who you could acquire this offseason and they're available, what's it like? Speak with a player that you'd rather want more that could be via trade.
Yeah. Mackenzie Gore's really good. I'm trying to think right now who he probably is number one. Obvious. I'm trying to think real fast. Obviously, I love Hunter Green, but besides that, yeah, I think it's those two. I think Pablo Lopez. Pablo, I don't think is on the left. Doesn't have the upside of those guys just because they're younger. But Pablo's a guy that you plug in and he's a bona fide top end too. You know what you're gonna get from him every time. I would love Pablo on this team.
Mm-hmm. I just know realistically, if I'm Uncle Mike, the perfect game plan is you sign a free agent that you like, dependable arm, maybe one of the high guys if you think it's the right fit. But if I'm any team, I am looking to try to trade to get, if I just don't think Green's available for who would pay for him, but that's just me. Watch me be wrong, and I'm cool with being wrong. But the Gore side of this, like, don't buy numbers on guys at, Gore's 26, finished with a 4.17 ERA. Don't buy that. Buy the stuff. Buy what they can be. Buy what they could become. And Gore struck out like 1.3 or 4 per inning. He was dominant early on. The thing for him is command, but stuff, goodness gracious, dude, that stuff is plays. The right-handed pitcher between Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez, that would be an interesting debate with both those guys. Established righties, I'd probably lean Joe Ryan because I think he's starting to figure out a different side of him. But, man. And by the way, I know we talked extensively, Zach, about Byron Buxton yesterday. I want to be able to point one thing out. He has a no-trade clause, so he would get to choose where he wants to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the destination would be, if the Orioles were interested, would he waive it? So I want Buxton's going to choose where he wants to go if he wants to go. And Marte's the same way with the Diamondbacks, which their GM also came out and said, yeah, highly unlikely we trade him, by the way.
Yeah, that's another. This is, like I've said, this is that time of year where everyone's listening to everything. Everyone's calling everyone. People want to see what teams are doing, especially teams with maybe, some new management or that have made moves. So, I'm sure that's a big reason why the Orioles are getting calls, because they're saying, okay, hey, they got a new manager in there. Maybe he wants to go with Basayo. We're going to kick the tires. Teams. There are a lot of injured foots out there in the GM world from just kicking tires all day right now.
A lot of tires. A lot of tires to be kicked there. Oh, sugar. Well, at the end of the day, too, guys with no trade clause, they get to choose the situations that they want. I saw a couple comments down the road there. Yeah, you have the right. What do you value? You want to win? And where do you want to win? What group do you like better? What's the atmosphere you want? Like, that's the beauty of, you get to choose what you want. And each team could make the case to Byron, but at the end of the day, he's from down south. A team that probably will want him too is Atlanta.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That'd be coming home for him. I no doubt, I think he would accept that one. But anyway, Zach, we got one more thing, and then we'll get on out of here. I think that kind of gets all of our baseball stuff for the most part.
Yep.
Because it's still football season for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. And but did want to talk about this. Report came out from Bleacher Report, not a report, an opinion piece came out on Bleacher Report a day or two ago about the most overrated players in the National Football League. And Lamar Jackson was number one on the list. Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco reacted to this last night on Nightcap. So we're going to show you what they said, and then we're going to react on the other side.
Ocho, we talked about this. This is the only, this is the albatross. This is the elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. You see the names that are on this list that have won multiple MVPs. Lamar is the only one that hasn't been to a Super Bowl. That's not to say, Ocho, his career is not ending tomorrow.
No, absolutely not.
Everybody jumped on me when I said his career will be looked at as a disappointment if he doesn't get to a Super Bowl, considering what he had accomplished. You base it on what these other guys. So you can't just look, well, he won 2 MVPs. You got to look at the company that he's in that's won 2 MVPs. Now when you start looking at it, you're like, well, damn, he has to get to 1. Aaron Rodgers went to 1. He has to get to at least 1. And then we look at him totally different. He gets to 1 and he wins it. We look at him differently, Ocho. We just do.
Yeah, absolutely. But listen, I understand the company that he keeps, the fact that he's won 2 MVPs, the fact that he's won those MVPs, those that are in the chat that are listening, that are watching, you have to understand that he's in a class of his own, in a different class for that matter. So when it comes to judging him, he judged based off his what he's not compadres. What's the word I'm looking for?
His
people
peers.
In the company you keep. His peers. He judged based on his other peers that have won MVPs as well. And most of them, if not all, have been to a Super Bowl, whether they won a Super Bowl or not. So he judged off of that. But the whole overrated part is the part I don't like. That's the part I don't like, saying that he's overrated because he hadn't gotten there yet when he's still playing in only his 7th, maybe 8th year. I'm not sure which one it is. It's ridiculous.
I think
for that matter, because
was
nothing about
Lamar's first year.
Yeah. Okay. But nothing about Lamar Jackson and what he brings to the table, what he brings to the NFL, what he brings to the Baltimore Ravens in general, and giving them a chance and having them in contention every goddamn year, nothing about that is overrated. That's the part I don't like. Now that is more, to me, is more clickbait. There should be a different title when it comes to talk about the quarterbacks that have won MVPs and have been or won a Super Bowl. The title should be goddamn different. Overrated my goddamn ass. Now that's a bunch of bullshit.
Hey, you know what? Holding back, no punches. I agree with that part where it's a different conversation. That's why I hate even having this. Oh, are you overrated? You're not. If you were as talented as Lamar Jackson is, or like Josh Allen, who also hasn't been to a Super Bowl, for me, the part of overrated, it's the wrong conversation. If you want to talk about the greatness that they end up being for what they accomplished, yeah, I mean, winning Super Bowls and getting there is a part of that situation. Now, it's a team sport at the end of the day. The years when Tom Brady is great. He's clutch.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots also, their defense for the most of the time was a solid unit that allowed the opportunities, and Tom Brady, being as good as he is, rose to the occasion, and also he plays his best ball, it seems like, in the postseason. Lamar, at times, obviously, it's no secret, has had moments where he has not played his best games in the postseason. The same can be said around Peyton Manning. Like, if Peyton Manning ever got to a Super Bowl, you got to discredit how nasty he was during the regular season and how good the Colts were all those years. The funny thing is, the last Super Bowl that the Broncos won, Peyton Manning had his worst year, and it was at the end of his career. So, yeah, I'm with it on that. It's a different category. You want to get on him for not winning Super Bowls and not getting there and say that it was missed for a player that great. It's a missed opportunity that he didn't do it. Yes, that's fine. You're looking at like the greatness level of a player. Cool with that. But like overrated talent, no.
Yeah, I agree with Ocho. And actually, I agree a little bit with Shannon just in the part of where he goes, because I agree, it's not overrated. There's maybe disappointment in, okay, they haven't made it all the way. Okay. If you want to say disappointed, endings to season, yeah, we've had disappointing endings to season. You felt like last year you had a shot. You felt like in 23 you had a shot. So yeah, disappointment at times like that. That's kind of been the end of it. But I think even Lamar would admit, yeah, we're disappointed we haven't gotten to there. Overrated. Unanimous MVP. Like the guy, he should 3-time first team All-Pro. Like, yeah, it's the playoffs, and like that's where they need to perform. But I'll tell you this, Lamar led that comeback against the Bills, and then that was a dot to Isaiah Likely that doesn't get talked about because the next play was dropped by Mark Andrews. Like
they lost.
Yeah, they lost. They lost the game, and at the end of the day, that's what people care about. They care about rings. If you want to say it's been disappointing that they haven't gotten to at least one Super Bowl or won one, yeah, I think that's disappointing. But overrated? I like how Ocho put it. That's clickbait.
Like, and the one thing is that people view Joe Flacco way differently because of that Super Bowl run. And Joe, that Joe just is cool as the icy skates on in the wintertime because that's postseason time. And Joe Cool's a real thing. He steps up his game in the postseason, but it's also a similar concept when I think about postseason legends in sports.
Mm-hmm.
Delman Young was a postseason legend when he played for the Tigers and with the Orioles. The dude just comes up clutch. But is Delman Young the level of greatness when you watch in the regular season? Delman Young was a good player.
Yeah.
But does it make him that he's this? Does it make his talents even better because it was the postseason? Or no, hey, he's an unbelievable postseason player. And the same can be said. It's the postseason's a different breed. And that's why to me it's a whole different conversation. And yeah, the story for Lamar Jackson will be if the Ravens never get to the Super Bowl with him, going, damn, he was one of the most electrifying players to watch. He would make plays you wouldn't believe. And then people would say, but damn, him and the Ravens could never get it done in the postseason. And that's the narrative that would have to live. But that's not overrated. That's then when the postseason happened, it was a different game and they couldn't get it done. But it doesn't devalue that every single year when Lamar plays a full season and he's out there, the Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL. There's nothing overrated about that. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Nothing overrated about what Aaron Rodgers did throughout his career. Now, does it look differently in the postseason? Yes, but it doesn't discredit what they did in the regular season. So then that pisses me off. It is what it is. It is what it is.
It is. At the end of the day, it's just, I agree with Ocho. I actually really enjoyed Nightcap. I think Ocho is really funny.
Yeah, you know what? We do our own Nightcap when it comes to Rip After Dark, and it's a little bit different, but click that join button for that. We got to have more of those pop up. But Ravens play the Browns. Before any of this greatness and Lamar and all that, you got to go win on Sunday. The Ravens have had trouble with the Browns. I can't imagine Baltimore will handle that well if they lose. Speaking of Joe Flacco, he will play against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, which I got to be honest. I got to be honest. I don't love the Bengals' chances after winning that great.
You know, I trust Joe. I trust Joe. And yes, I do have to shout out my girlfriend. My girlfriend, she's the one who got me into Nightcap because she watches because of Ocho. I will say, big fan of Ocho. Big fan of Ocho. He keeps it. Ocho is one of those guys that I appreciate because he's just he will check Shannon Sharp on anything, and it's a very fun aspect, fun dynamic.
Damn right. That's a good group. We also are gonna have a good group of guests coming up here in the future. Excited about that. We'll get that all planned here, and we'll just shoot the shit a lot more too with some of these guests. Because again, it's not just about ball. We like to hear the stories, and we got a lot of interviews that we've had in the past. We're gonna have a lot more content coming up. Winter meetings is less than a month away. And also, we might have a guest since it's football season, like I talked about. There might be a former Raven that you might be seeing pop up on the screen here in the next week. He was a part of the last Ravens Super Bowl victory back in 2012, 2013. Definitely a name that you will remember. So that's all we got, I think, Zach, for the most part. You know, we got anything else you wanted to put together? Point out?
No, I think that is that's it. And I appreciate everyone tuning in.
Hey, I gotta say, we're on live on YouTube, X, and Facebook, and I saw that we have someone tuning in for the first time on Facebook.
Hey, appreciate that. Appreciate at 5.
You tuning in.
Live at 5.
Live at 5 here on the Ryan Ripken Show. And you guys let us know. We should do that for the next poll. 5 o'clock start, 5:30 start. Is a 6 p.m. start kickoff?
Can we say live at 5 if it's 5:30?
Yeah. Well, we're just trying to find a good time for our audience. And we know a lot of people getting off work. They want to then decompress and talk about whatever it is. And if you don't want to talk about sports, we can do that too. Don't worry. You want to hear about my problems? We can talk about them here. I'll definitely will talk about them on Rip After Dark. And we'll get the verticals rocking and rolling. One thing that we are changing, though, on the Sundays, the pregame shows, just because we're going to 5 days a week, we're not going to do the pregame shows, but we will find a way for postgame reactions, volleys all over that, and we will have some opportunities for the channel members on the Sundays to have still that intimate moment. It's not that we're leaving you on Sundays. We just are changing it because we're trying to give you more content and trying to be able to structure that the way that we can. That makes sense.
Yep.
See some. Are we going to get shirts that say live at 5?
I think if we keep it, we might have to. That might have to be. I will say it would actually be a really funny shirt. Joe put it in the chat yesterday. He was like, I watched the Ryan Ripken show and all I got was this t-shirt. That would be a funny t-shirt.
That would be funny.
A really funny t-shirt. I watched the Ryan Ripken show and all I got was this t-shirt.
Well, the thing what we'll do now is I would attach direct from consumer or distributor to consumer. We're not going through.
We're not doing the middleman stuff anymore. That was months. That was months.
Oh, goodness. That's a lot to do here. Live at 5, Ryan Ripken Show. We appreciate you guys. weekend. Zach, you have a nightcap for yourself? What you got going on?
I got I'll be betting for bets at least. I'll be doing this has become an auto bet, me and my friend group. The past 3 years we've been doing it. I think I've bet the over in the first half of Gonzaga basketball. I think every game they've played in the past 2 years. We hit last time, the time before last Saturday, 79.5, and it was 78.5 in the morning. Waited to see how the day panned out in college football to judge by what I was going to put on it. Moved up to 79.5. 3-pointer at the with 20 seconds left to hit 79. Guy missed a 3 on the other end. So hooked. Unbelievable. But yeah, it's at 75.5 right now. They play so fast. Gonzaga plays so fast. It's unreal.
The Zags, man.
So Oregon also plays tonight in college football. How bad is Minnesota that they forced Oregon not on a Saturday? That's
crazy. There's a lot of moving parts this weekend. And since you didn't ask, I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing this weekend. I'm going to continue to work on how to make this better for our program. I probably will have a combination of a Deep Eddy vodka cocktail, but also I do have a plethora of tequila, and maybe that's for the Rip After Dark, where we can sit down and kind of chat about what we can continue to do. There's also a place down the street from me, Zach, if I'm feeling frisky. They have a late night happy hour for Raw Bar and for drinks, and it is phenomenal.
Raw Bar.
It is phenomenal. So, sugar. And also, so for our guests in the future too, I would like to know what more you guys would like to talk about. So we'll put community posts on YouTube to ask more of these questions. Zach and I are going to work on segments on Monday, though, Zach. I hope you're doing your homework, book report.
Yeah, Miracle.
Well, and Tommy Boy.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Tommy Boy this time. Good thing we just said that, because I would have just watched Miracle. I was just going to watch Miracle.
We're having our little book club, movie club, show club.
I would have showed up with those two very different movies.
Yeah, we're talking Tommy Boy on Monday. All right, guys, hit that like and subscribe button. Appreciate you guys. A lot of people tuning in on a Friday. You guys are great. I'm going to cue the music, Zach. Is that okay with you?
Let's hit it. I can't hear it now.
Is it not going?
No, it's not going.
No, it says it's going on my side.
Can people hear the music? Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear?
Is there music playing?
Can you guys hear the music? Because now I can't hear the music.
Are we dancing? You hear music?
Is there music?
Well, I don't hear anything. What? Does it?
No
does
music.
Hey, time out. Does this mic sound clear?
Yeah, you talking into the mic is.
I was about to grab the mic. I was gonna start singing. Was it Katy Perry last Friday night? Yeah, we danced on tabletops. Yeah, we took too many shots. Think we kissed, but I forgot last Friday night. Have a day, have a night. Appreciate you guys. Be good, be safe. Enjoy your stinking weekend, and come back and join us on Monday for a brand new edition of the Ryan Ripken Show. Appreciate you guys.
Bow.
Like